We have him back, our good friend, Dr. Steve Margeotes, Executive Director of Main Street Counseling. Good to see you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Good to see you always.
Let everyone know what Main Street is all about and why it matters now more than ever.
Well, Steve, we're in our 42nd year. I am the founder, and our mission has always been accessible mental health services, and we've succeeded with that. We now have 505 clients we're seeing weekly. The need is overwhelming. We're at full capacity, and I just can't highlight enough what the pandemic has done to people. Depression, anxiety, more domestic violence, right down the line. It's a terrible time.
Let me ask you, Steve, for people who argue, listen, it's a pandemic, it's temporary, I'll get past this. And again, we've interviewed a lot of healthcare professionals on the front lines for over the past couple of years, and what they are facing in terms of anxiety, pressure, depression, being the target of violence, a whole range of things, is one thing. For the rest of us, regular folks who are not doing such heroic things, who say, hey, listen, I don't need help. I get through it myself. What do you say to them?
Steve, I think it's a myth, and I think it's a common reaction that you minimize things. It's not that bad. I'll get through it. Other people have had it tougher. As we've talked about before, I think you got to tackle this head on. You got to embrace it. You know, you got to understand what's happening to everybody because of the effects. Everybody is short of patience. Everybody is tired. It doesn't take much to go over the edge because I think really the effects have been minimized. The isolation alone, Steve. I mean, we've been
Talk about that. Sorry for interrupting, Steve. Define isolation, because I worry about my mom and others who don't have they're not as active as they used to be. But it's not just people of a certain age who wind up feeling and being more isolated. It's all kinds of people. What is it and what impact does it have?
Steve, it's a helplessness. I can't go out. I'm not supposed to socialize. Have you received a booster? Have you received a vaccine? How do I know? Am I going to get sick? It's this constant isolation, which results in helplessness. We've been doing telehealth for 27 months. And one of the biggest comments has been, you know, thank God I still have you, but I miss my room. I miss the building. I miss the soothing atmosphere of Main Street. You're trying to run sessions and there's one computer and, you know, the kitchen area, there's lack of confidentiality. A lot of clients have coped by now running sessions in their car.
You know, Steve, it's interesting. And put our website up. Put steveadubato.org up, and I'll tell you why. I want folks to check out an interview we did with State Senator Vin Gopal. And Senator Gopal was so candid in this interview. It was specifically about mental health issues and some legislation he's involved in that regard. But he talked about his own challenges. And the reason I raise it is because it's so rare for such a public person to do that. And I remember on my own end, I talked about my own challenges in that regard. And I don't know what I would do without my therapist. He knows who he is. I think he watches sometimes. That being said, how important is it for public people? Again, it's a private issue. Of course it is. But for some folks, prominent state senators, prominent public officials, prominent people in the media, for all of us to help destigmatize mental health by being public, while it is a private issue. It's nobody, my wife's like, it's nobody's business. I know, but Steve, help me on this.
I think it's validating. I think when they see public officials going for therapy, whether it's media, sports, music, I think the interpretation is, well, see, they're going, you know, and they're not ashamed to talk about it. And I think it's validating, and I think that cannot be emphasized enough. Mental health is health. And I think that when public figures endorse it, it helps the cause. Only about 60%, whatever study you look at, Steve, highlight people who need help can get it for a variety of reasons.
Wow. Steve, talk about violence, mental health issues and violence. You ever notice when there's a horrific event, Texas is Texas, horrific event happened there. We don't know what, listen, it's happening way too often. Why don't we stop talking about guns? Let's about gun control or gun safety. Let's talk about mental illness. Do you believe that there is a direct correlation for some who are dealing with serious mental health issues, and I know it's patient by patient, and their proclivity to be violent and dangerous and be engaged in murdering of other innocent people?
I think you just said it right there, innocent people. I think, there's a segment of that population that feels inadequate, helpless, powerless, resentful of people that have a future or have hope. I don't think it's an accident that a lot of times when these happen in school, you're talking about children that have hope, that are looking forward to the future, that are innocent.
Hold on. By the way, when I was talking about innocent people, I was talking about innocent victims. You may be interpreting it differently, but you may be talking about the perpetrator, not innocent when they do something like that, obviously. Wow. However, what the heck would that have to do with school children?
I think school children, my take, are looking forward to the future. They're innocent. They're hopeful. They still believe in the future. And I think when you're that mad and your future doesn't look bright, I want to take it out on you as well. Domestic violence, high rate of death with domestic violence and suicide when there's a gun in the house. There's so many mad people. And I think you have to address the mental health that you need to weigh to check out in your anger. But when you have tools right there, easily accessible, it's a deadly combination.
Question. Serious mental health challenges facing our children, many of whom had not even gotten into a classroom like kindergarten, first grade, until they had to get into a classroom 2 years into this thing. Steve?
I think
social interaction, et cetera.
All that. I think it creates additional anxiety. It's an additional worry. Is it going to happen to my school? How do I know I'm safe? I think these types of situations increase everybody's reaction to the possibility. It comes under trauma, Steve, and how you react to trauma is in some ways even more important than the trauma itself. So you walk into a classroom and you're hoping for the best and the adults will take care of me. But the more you see this happen, it's tough to believe in anything. So you're scared, you're worried.
Yeah, and P.S., let's make sure we acknowledge our public school educators or educators of all types. Steve, I know this is unfair, but 30 seconds on this. If, in fact, the confidentiality between doctor and patient, therapist and patient is sacrosanct, but the therapist has real sense to believe that a patient is potentially dangerous, what is the ultimate responsibility? Is it to society and innocent people who would be victims? Or, go ahead, real quick.
From graduate school on, Steve, they always talk about if a client talks about harming themselves or others, that confidentiality gets broken. And we talk about that to clients. It is confidential, except in these two situations.
Thank you for clarifying. That's Steve Margeotes. We'll be having him back on again every time we learn from him. Dr. Steve Margeotes, Executive Director of Main Street Counseling, based in West Orange, New Jersey.
West Orange, New Jersey. We're still here 42 years later.
Right up the road. Hey, thank you, Steve. All the best. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Steve. Always a pleasure. Take care.
You got to stay with us. We'll be right back.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by the Russell Berry Foundation, the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, the Turrell Fund, supporting Reimagine Childcare, RWJ Barnabas Health, New Jersey Sharing Network, New Jersey's Clean Energy Program, Valley Bank, the Fidelco Group, and by the Adler Aphasia Center. Promotional support provided by ROINJ and by NJ.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sharif Elnahal. Did you know that there are nearly 4,000 New Jerseyans waiting for a life-saving transplant? And 67% of those people are people of color. Just one organ and tissue donor can save 8 lives and enhance the lives of over 75 people. Let's come together to raise awareness in our diverse communities. Donation needs diversity. You have the power to make a difference. For more information or to become an organ and tissue donor, visit www.njsharingnetwork.org.